Okay, I'm going to record this. You guys can listen to it while you wash dishes or something or not. It doesn't matter. I'm recording for the children's sake. Foundations of Education for Home and School by Susan Schaefer Macaulay. I'm going to start with chapter 2. My house is a mess, so sorry. And then also, you might hear my broke machine in the background, and if anybody comes in and interrupts, I'm sorry. Okay? All right. Children are born persons. The first proposition of Charlotte Mason's educational philosophy may seem merely a statement of the obvious, but I want to emphasize that it is not some minor element of a greater truth. It is a central truth in its own right, and if we ignore it, great sorrow and malpractice can result. Try a simple experiment. Take a small child on your knee, respect him, do not see him as something to prune, form, or mold. This is an individual who thinks, acts, and feels. He is not a separate human being whose strengths lie in who he is, not in whose strength lies in who he is, not who he will become. That's a good one. If his choices made now and in the future are to be good ones, this person must understand reality and see the framework of truth. In the shorthand of language, we call this knowing. The child is a person who needs to grow in knowledge. You have some of that knowledge, not because you are an adult and adults are supposed to be wonderfully clever. The Bible is very clear in its teaching that there is a sense in which we must ourselves become like this little child on our knee if we are to inherit the kingdom of God. But we have knowledge because we have lived in God's world as persons, and that knowledge can be shared. Christians have the added perspective of God's Word from which to explain their experience and understanding of life. We are told by many in our generation that this small child is a cog in a machine, or even that he is a possession, like a pet animal. Many adults now have a child in the same way that they have a washing machine or a collie dog. We must answer, no, you are holding a person on your knee, and that is wonderful. What sort of person is it whom we are holding? To know him, we must consider the various aspects integrated into the unity which we call the person, Johnny, Sally. Physically, this little boy may be vigorous and healthy and malnourished, or malnourished and dejected. His mind may be alert and responsive, or it may be dulled and neglected. His emotion may be warm, trusting, affectionate, or fearful, wary and suspicious because of past hurt. His spirit may be awake to the great lover of children, or it may be ignorant and withdrawn. Worse, he may already be bored by sawdust, like religious slogans. He may be warmed at the fire of the shepherd who has cared for him. Okay, I had to stop a second. Look well at the child on your knee. In whatever condition you find him, look with reverence. We can only love and serve him and be his friend. We cannot own him. He is not ours. That is so true. Neither would it be right to use the fact that he is dependent on us to brainwash him into thinking any arbitrary thought or perform any arbitrary act that we may deem useful. We should not plan his life for him so that he is being prepared for some great purpose, even if the purpose we intend is a worthy one in our eyes. Such as becoming an ever loyal and patriotic supporter of our own denomination or brand of politics, or acting out our own ego, pride, or ambition. This was an important issue for Charlotte Mason. This is what she says. We must know something about the material we are to work upon if the education we offer is not to be scrappy and superficial. We must have some measure of a child's requirements, not based on his uses to society, nor upon the standard of the world he lives in, but upon his own capacity and needs. Charlotte Mason rejects the utilitarian view of education and the conventional educational standards of her day. She challenges us instead to identify the child's actual needs and capacities, to serve him as he is on the basis of what is right and good for him as a person. Will this perspective not produce a selfish, non-useful member of society? No, indeed. Not if we serve this person with true education. Okay, here's Charlotte's quote. Our journals ask with scorn, is there no education but what is got out of books at school? Is not the lad who works in the fields getting an education? And the public lacks the courage to say definitively, no, he is not, because there is no clear notion current as to what education means and how it is to be distinguished from vocational training. But the people begin to understand and to clamor for an education which shall qualify their children for life rather than for earning a living. As a matter of fact, it is the person who has read and thought on many subjects who is, with the necessary training, the most capable, whether in handling of tools, drawing plans, or keeping books. The more of a person we succeed in making a child, the better he will both fulfill his own life and serve society. And so, Charlotte Mason rejected the idea what this young person needed was molding. Their notion is that by means of a pull here, a push there, a compression elsewhere, a person is at last turned out according to the pattern the educator has in his mind. She's right on. Charlotte Mason was, however, a realist. She accepted the little child exactly as he was. She did not romanticize him, but she appreciated him and looked with wonder at what she found. Now here's Charlotte's quote. The most prosaic of us comes across evidence of mind in children, and of mind astonishingly alert. Let us consider in the first 2 years of life, they manage to get through more intellectual effort than any following 2 years can show. She proceeds to catalog the marvelous accomplishments that occur in the self-education of these children under 2. Back to her quote. If we have not proved that a child is born a person with a mind as complete and beautiful as the little boy, we can at least show that he always has all the mind he requires for these occasions. That is, that his mind is the instrument of his education, and that his education does not produce his mind. Can you sense the atmosphere in which this educator approached children? She respected their minds, even as equally capable as her own exceedingly capable mind. She used the term twaddle for the mental inferior and useless stuff produced or written for children by adults. She saw that it devalued their minds. I like both the word and the concept it communicates. I can readily imagine the scene Charlotte Mason describes in her book, Home Education, a book written to help parents and teachers educate children under the age of 9. Okay, under 9 years of age. All right, here we go. Indeed, I'm inclined to question whether, in the interest of carrying out a system, the charming kindergarten teacher is not in danger sometimes of greatly undervaluing the intelligence of her children. I know a person of 3 who happened to be found by a sailor alone in the drawing room. It was spring, and the caller thought to make himself entertaining with talk about the pretty bad lambs. But a pair of big blue eyes were fixed upon him, and a solemn person made this solemn remark: Isn't it a dwifful, howid thing to see a pig killed? We hoped that she never even heard of the killing of a pig, but she made as effective a protest against twaddle as would any woman of society. Treasure Island, Robinson Crusoe, and his men Friday, the fight of Thermopylae, Ulysses, and the suitors. These are the sorts of things that children play at by the month together. Even the toddlers of 3 and 4 will hold their own manfully with their brothers and sisters. And if the little people were in the habit of telling how they feel, we should learn perhaps that they are a good deal bored by the nice little games in which they frisk like lambs, flap their fins, and twiddle their fingers like butterflies. Now, this is one of the fundamental principles by which made Charlotte Mason into a great educator. She not only said that she treasured a child's mind, but she acted upon that belief. It had many practical ramifications, as we will see later on. Charlotte Mason enjoyed sharing the good things of life with the eager minds of children. This is an important concept which we will explore in more detail later in the book. She dealt with them on an eye-to-eye level. She never felt that they weren't old enough to appreciate and think about things which she knew were good. She delighted in introducing them to all aspects of reality with a positive joy. She delighted in their separate individuality. Twaddle. If I were to have to label much educational material today, I'm afraid a large percentage would definitely be twaddle. How colorfully and scientifically our generation talks down to the little child. What insipid, stupid, dull stories are trotted out, and we don't stop there. We don't respect the children's thinking or let them come to any conclusions themselves. We ply them with endless questions, the ones we've thought up, instead of being silent and letting the child's questions bubble up with interest. We tire them with workbooks that would squeeze out the last drop of anybody's patience, and we remove interesting books and squander time on a clinical procedure called reading skill test, using idiotic, isolated paragraphs which nobody would dream of choosing to take home to read. The recordings of detestable features of a child's taught tricks, skills, is held to be more important than the mysterious, exciting growth of a person. I feel profoundly sad that such things should be happening. It need not be so. As I write, I remember the bright brown eyes of another interesting person, at present aged 4. A few weeks ago, she was in a small group of children listening to a straightforward biblical narration of creation, of the first persons, and of their deliberate choice to disobey God's command. The children had been deeply attentive and interested. Suddenly, the brown eyes flashed. "But, Susan, it isn't true, is it?" How amazed and interested she was when I said that it was indeed true. People 5 times her age have asked that same question. I cannot see any essential difference. In both cases, it is an intelligent, basic question. Children's minds work as ours do. When the story was over, the children left, unself-conscious and relaxed. 2 weeks later, they retold me the entire story without one word of prompting. They had been presented with straightforward history. It interested them, just as history interests adults. They had no need for a little twaddle talk at the end, to tell them how or what to think about what they had heard. Suppose I had been ill-advised enough to say, "Sit still, Jenny, and don't bring up your ideas about truth right now. Today we are supposed to think about families, so we will think about mommies and daddies and that God made them so that they would have a family right there at the very beginning." What would I have been doing? After narrating one of the great history stories of all time, I would have been reducing its breadth and interest by telling the children what I thought they should think and feel about it. That's really good. There would have been several distinct consequences. They would have been deprived of the chance to wonder at the story, to make their own personal response, and they would have been deprived of the right to think. Number 2, the closing sermonette would most probably have degenerated into twaddle and then boring them. And if they weren't bored then, I can assure you that they would be by the 3rd time it happened. And number 3, I might have been tempted to capture their interest by other means than the deep fascination of the story. I might have tried to catch their eye with a set of puppets, perhaps. Number 4, Jenny would not have asked herself, "Is it true?" Her brown eyes wouldn't have sparkled with the answer, "Truth." And number 5, all the fancy additions to the story would have kept her mind from working by itself. It would have also taken a lot longer. Therefore, the lesson would have kept her from a lovely 20-minute scamper on the lawn with her friends. We devalue the personhood of our wonderful children. We rob their minds of proper, interesting, strong meat to nourish their growing needs. We belittle their interest. We compete with the entertainment of TV We flick images, flash colors, use tricks, and yet many small children are at the same time being robbed of free and happy childhood play. Endless play approach, lessons bore them, and leave no time for imaginative real play in and out of doors. Johnny's hyper. Let's sedate him. Why are Jenny's eyes so dulled? She doesn't seem to take any interest in our carefully thought out talk, even though it is severely within the guidelines of the vocabulary and concepts understood by the 4-year-old. The idea of truth will be talked about in junior high Sunday school, year 8, day 21. Why do I feel so profoundly sad? Dear Lord, the little children are being smothered. They're often pinched, pushed, managed, and neglected into the bargain. The experience of beauty in God's great outdoors is often exchanged for seeing flickering images on a screen. Adults have so often stopped giving children time priority, they are relegated to the category of menial jobs. Many regard them as positively horrible. They resent their instruction into their time and pocketbooks. Dear God, where are the friends and lovers of children? Who will open up the wonderful windows into the whole of reality and let their capable minds be stimulated? Who will accept them as they really are, as persons? This is why I feel that this whole question is one of utmost urgency. We have to be willing to start again. Before we go any further, here is a challenge. Get to know a child. It may be your own or somebody else's. Don't ask of it as either a menial or a professional task. Do it for its own sake. I can assure you, the child will bring more to you than you can bring to him or to her. Amen. A child can be the very best friend in all the world. They are so responsive. Their minds are challenging and wonderfully surprising. Get a few really good books and read them out loud together. Set aside a good regular chunk of time. This will be one of the most rewarding and stimulating relationships in your life. And guess what? If you have the courage to be honest, the youngsters' comments and questions are going to make you think and think hard. You can throw away all the manuals. That child has an awful lot to teach you. That is true. Your mind is probably in a worse state than his. After reading together, go to a really nice place outside for a couple of hours at least, and don't rush. Turn a rock over and watch the beetles run away. Throw rocks in the stream and slide down a hill. Talk together. You'll find yourself enjoying it, and relax. Relax. It isn't all as hard as the experts make out. We're human beings, persons created to live, to have life more abundantly, wander together, grow together, share the struggles of knowing that we cannot perfectly follow God's laws. We are fellow pilgrims. We walk side by side as a human beings under the love and authority of Him who made us. It's really good. Okay. Applying some aspects of the fact that children are persons. If we have any insight at all, we will quickly identify the fact that Christians begin from a very different starting point when thinking about education. It is not merely a question of what we want to teach, who teaches it, or what exactly is right or wrong. It is deeper. We speak of who the human being is. We do not have to achieve anything to earn self-worth. We know that the person is a creature of this planet into whom God breathed the spirit of personality. Yes, we are created having that within ourselves, which is so unique that God could say, "Let us make man in our own image." Male and female, He created them. We know that the first persons made a wrong choice and that we live in an abnormal world. Yet the message of Christianity is about God's provision for me, which when followed can give me a relationship with a God who is there, a measure of peace within myself, and a meaningful relationship with other human beings around me. Last but not least, I am responsible for the planet on which I live and of which I am a part. One aspect of life is not more Christian than another. So it's Christian to enjoy a juicy melon. That is because I'm eating. It is a real event, and I'm made so that I can enjoy cool melon on a hot day. It is Christian to put my arm around someone to love or comfort them. That is because this is a way human beings relate, show they care, and enjoy each other. More than this, it must be said that certain Christian books are in fact not so. For instance, some go beyond biblical teaching and, like the Pharisees, burden the people with weighty rules and regulations. This is why we have to be very, very careful when we consider Christian education. To be that, it has to serve the person the way he really is, and it must, of course, be based on the sureness of biblical truths. So it has to be appropriate for the needs and minds of that same person. Play. I would think that as a good place as any to start is the concept of play. After the child's need of love and nourishment are provided for, the child plays. Now, Charlotte Mason says this: there is a little danger in these days of much educational effort that children's play should be crowded out, or what is from our present point of view the same thing, should be prescribed for and arranged until there is no more freedom of choice about play than about work. We do not say a word against the educational value of games, such as football, basketball, etc., but organized games are not play in the sense we have in view. Boys and girls must have time to invent episodes, carry on adventures, live heroic lives, lay sieges, carry forts, even if the fortress be an old armchair. And in these affairs, the elders must neither meddle nor make. She goes on to say that if we do not organize their play, there is serious danger. In this matter, the child who goes too much on crutches never really learns to walk. This is a point which needs to be considered further. Play seems so natural, just like anything which is attuned to reality. The phrase child's play is part of our language. It ought to mean the quality of spontaneity, imagination, wholehearted concentration, and joy which should mark all children at play. But one of the saddest things I know is to watch students at L'Abri look at a group. Let's redo that. But one of the saddest things I know is to watch students at L'Abri look at a group of children involved for hours in satisfying play and comment, "I've never seen children playing like that." No, then weep. Even childhood is robbed of the riches of humanness. It is appropriate to pause and think about that. Helping the child to play. There are many reasons why children have been reduced to a point where they don't play with joy, initiative, and creativity. Often, so far as their personality is concerned, they are wheelchair cripples, too disabled even for crutches. Restorative action means scheduling time which is not obviously improving. And believe me, I'm not talking theoretically, but as a mother of 4 children whose ages cover various stages, school hours are like a monster, however excellent that school may be, gobbling up that child's treasure of time. Careful now. We only get to be a child once. For some children, there are more calls on time: gymnastics, music, swimming, extra spelling, French tutoring, and what about the church? However worthwhile each separate activity is, it is important to keep a check on how much of the child's time is being organized and make a wise and balanced choice of priorities. Children's overall needs should be thoughtfully considered. Then there's another time-consuming monster: homework. Yaha, thought all those hours of school were over? And here comes the last straw. Most children spend more time parked in front of a TV than they do spending doing anything else. Their minds are unfed, their imaginations unused, their bodies unexercised, and their thoughts unexpressed and unheard. 6-year-old children are as pressurized as executives. Children are being fitted into a streamlined schedule designed for parents so they can cope with their pressures. Institutions herd children out of necessity. They need to consider group control more than the child's need. And so, over-entertained, pushed, pulled, and tidied up, often the child of today has the rich creative play response crush out. Sometimes the only thing his dulled eyes focus on is a premature adolescence, which will release him from childhood. Oh. I grew up until the age of 6.5 in an old-fashioned American neighborhood. We had a space to play, a vacant lot, dozens of yards, an alley, and shaded sidewalks. Grown-ups left us to ourselves to play for hours on end, whole days strung together. We didn't have to rush off all the time to do things that were good for us. The adults left the children free to play and to organize their own time. Mind you, they didn't disappear either. They were there, living and working in that neighborhood. There was always someone to go to when you needed help and to notice when we were bad. But they didn't meddle with our time. Cops and robbers, mud pies. Ooh, hang on, I skipped a sentence. But they didn't meddle with our time. Also, TV had not arrived to mesmerize people. Everybody had more freedom after their hours of work. Cops and robbers, mud pies, scratches from climbing trees, adventures on tricycles. One child stares at an ant carrying a crumb, and a few others start a club in a garage. Certain factors encourage play. It is often easier home-based than institution-based. There should be space and lots of free time. Children need to be outdoors for hours. They need to make noise, mess, and to have access to raw material, old clothes for costumes, hats, tables to turn into camps, etc., etc. They need privacy from intruding adults, but they need interested support in quarrels. Thinking of another way around a problem, providing food, and at the end, bringing the children tactfully back into the world where supper is ready. The camp has to be packed up. Children are tired and ready for the soothing routine of evening stories. Grown-ups need time in their life to support this kind of play. The children have to matter more than the furniture, but children don't mind at all sticking to the boundaries. This means saying no to too many time-consuming activities, both for adults and children. It means welcoming their friends and sympathetically diverting others who will spoil our game. We've just got to the good part, said with feeling as a destructive 2-year-old blundered into the camp. If children are already passive and stare with glazed eyes at a TV screen, or wander about bored when not organized, try going somewhere else. Water is always stimulating for children. Playing by a stream or a beach is usually satisfying. Don't be afraid to say no TV until Friday when we all watch that show together and then turn that TV set off. Or how about enjoying a few years without the materialistic and secular influence of TV at all? What about people in apartments? Raw material for play is also to be found here. Spread out an inviting array of dress-up clothes, Legos, Play-Doh, pile of old cardboard boxes. What about schools? Charlotte Mason so believed in this principle of giving children time to play that she organized the lessons so that the child could finish them about halfway through the day. And as we will go on and see, this was not because she devalued the time of learning, quite otherwise. Because she respected the children's minds so highly, she provided a truly liberal education for them at a very young age. She arranged for a broad curriculum. However, she knew that if attention was to be given fully, the child should have it contained in length of time appropriate for them. Then they could turn their attention from mind work to enjoying nature. Art, play, handcrafts, and physical activity. She believed firmly that they should have free time at home, in ordinary surroundings, so her schools never gave homework. She was very human. If I had a second childhood, I should like to be educated her way in school. To be respected as a person, to be provided for richly with ideas from outside, and yet to be left to develop myself according to my own inner resources. All of this within the firm framework of reality. Skills mastered, and yet a feast of interesting ideas to which one can react in one's own way. I know this deeply, as in the fact my childhood did provide me with so many of these joys at home. I know it was very special to be able to enjoy Swiss Alps just the way my own imagination prompted me. However, there is no such thing as the perfect environment in which a child can play. If we try to organize perfection, we fail the child. Part of life is to learn to accept the limitations of any given situation. We do our children a lifelong service if we help them to make the best of where they live and who they are. Children are great adapters. They will often make the best of the less than perfect situation. This consideration of their need for play, if applied, will mean different things to different families and schools. There is no one way. For one parent, it may mean giving up a career for some time to become a full-time parent. The child who goes from school to aftercare centers may never have the privacy and freedom he needs. It may mean someone else moves to the country or gets a house near a field. Another family may start to cut back on organized activities so as to leave the children more free time. Others may have to allow more mess and confusion, such as allowing a game in the clean house on a rainy day. A fort, perhaps, made out of all the chairs pushed together with blankets and food supplies at hand. Schools may send children home earlier if they and the families are united in purpose. If they are serving children whose homes cannot or will not provide it, they may design both time and space so as to provide for this basic need at school. Daycare centers, inner city programs, camps, residential homes, all should try to serve the child's needs. Can we use our creativity to think of ways in which children can be given a good place to play, using their own ideas? Adults will also need imagination and effort. They need to consider the priority that free play has in a child's life. Do we want a generation of stunted children? When we begin studying the person, the real child, we must serve who he is, not fit him into our schedules or plans. Part of this is allowing him to play. Okay, now I'm going to upload this one, and then I will read the second part. So I am stopping on the middle of page 42, and it will be in the next video.